I said last year that 2018 ended on kind of a rough note for me personally, but my 2019 kind of took an upswing up until the end of December. I got sick right before Christmas. There was an issue with the water in my house after Christmas. On top of that, an old acquaintance of mine from high school went missing on Christmas Eve and was then found murdered a few days later, hanging inside some sick freak's home. And now 2020 is a month old, and I'm still sick. The aforementioned sick freak is trying to plead insanity. The progressive Democrats are about to start cannibalizing each other, it looks like. And on top of that, a war between the US and Iran might happen soon. I don't know about you lot, but I am really pissed off. And you know what? I don't want to occupy more space in my brain with this awful shit. I'd rather spend my time talking about something far less heavy. So let's talk about some movies that I didn't really like this past year. I don't usually make videos about movies that I don't care about, that I don't care for, but this year I just saw two particular pieces of cinema that made me just throw my hands up and go, fucking why? There were plenty of movies I just didn't love this past year, but at no point did I think they were either poorly made or went in directions that just made no sense. Not so with these two gems we're about to talk about. Remember back in September 2018 when Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly had a beef? I easily took Eminem over Kelly in that fight, but while I was watching Rambo Last Blood, I kept thinking of a line from Rap Devil in relation to Last Blood and also John Wick 3. I just kept picturing Keanu Reeves telling Stallone, "You're not getting better with time, put the pen down." Because while Last Blood fails on its own merits as a standalone film, and fails even harder as an entry in the Rambo series, next to the greatness of the John Wick films, it fails even harder. Something strange I noticed with the film was, despite being an entry in the famous Rambo series, there were only two real action sequences, and one of them was the sloppiest fucking thing I've ever seen. You have Stallone popping out of nowhere with a hammer inside a brothel and just bashing in some fucking guys' heads in. Which sounds cool until you actually see it in action, and it's just... pathetic. Simply pathetic. Like, my advice, you want some kick-ass hammer action? Watch The Raid 2. And you know what? Not every action movie has to be as awesome as The Raid 2. In the second action sequence, where Rambo is at his homestead and is doing to the Mexican cartel guys what Kevin McAllister did to Harry and Marvin Home Alone, but rated R, is actually pretty cool. But it ends on such a stupid note where Rambo literally carves a man's heart out in such a ridiculously self-serious manner. I'm actually reminded of a similar scene from The Expendables 2, where Stallone cuts off Jean-Claude Van Damme's head and offers it to Bruce Willis. The difference being that the deed isn't shown, and when Stallone gives the head to Willis, his reaction is one of mild disturbance. It takes a pretty dark moment and makes it a little funny by mirroring the audience's possible reaction. Like, that's a bit extreme, but okay. Rambo cutting out the cartel leader's heart doesn't play well as black comedy, and while it's intended as either cathartic vengeance or righteous bloody justice, it's just so awkwardly staged and shot that it doesn't bring out the intended reaction. It just sits there like a wet fart. And you know what? I can forgive sloppy action if there's a good story. And I can forgive sloppy story if the action is good. I don't love the story in the first Raid, but the action is so fucking good. And I don't actually care that much for the action in the Bourne films, but I've always loved the story of Jason Bourne. Last Blood, meanwhile, fails on both accounts. The story is a pretty standard take on the old Taken formula, with Rambo's niece, Gabriella, being kidnapped by human traffickers in a Mexican cartel. Rambo goes to find her, does find her, poor girl dies on the way back. The cartel guys come for Rambo, and Rambo destroys them all because he's fucking Rambo. A standardized formula isn't a bad thing by itself. The first John Wick formula follows a standardized formula and it kicks ass. What matters is what you do with the formula. Working Class Hero is a song by John Lennon, and it's been covered many times. Green Day and Ozzy Osbourne both managed to put a unique spin on it. Marilyn Manson... Working Class Hero is something to be. Not so much. Last Blood is definitely more in the Manson vein as opposed to the Ozzy and Green Day vein. Taken wasn't even the first movie to use the Taken formula. They just spiced up the old Commando formula by aging up the lead from a Schwarzenegger type to an older man like Liam Neeson. Going a little less over the top and focusing less on dark comedy and more on the sheer terror of having your child be abducted while you're half a world away. And also showing the hero as an indirect witness to the kidnapping, while Schwarzenegger was somewhere else at the time. Last Blood takes what Taken did, nixes the badass phone call scene, makes the relationship less close by having the movie focus on Rambo and his niece, not Rambo and his daughter, and the actual distance between the hero and his relative is much closer. Rambo lives in Arizona, his niece is kidnapped only 200 miles past the US-Mexico border, and that's unlike Liam Neeson's Brian Mills, who lives in Los Angeles, and whose daughter is kidnapped in freaking Paris, France. And while Taken was about Brian reconnecting with his daughter, who he feels distant from, Last Blood, on the other hand, is about how people don't change, and to assume otherwise is to risk your own personal safety. And on top of that, I just didn't feel the emotional stakes here. Gabriella is so thinly characterized that when she dies of an overdose after being pumped up full of narcotics by the human traffickers, my reaction isn't sadness that the nice girl died, but annoyance that the writers decided to pointlessly kill her. In fact, thinking of it now, it would have actually made the end battle more compelling if she'd lived. The bad guys are coming to Rambo. If he has no one to protect, he can just leave a note saying, "Fuck you, assholes." But if Gabriella is alive, but very sick and very weak after ODing on all kinds of narcotics, and can't be taken to a safer place than Rambo's homestead, then he's pushed into a corner. Either unleash hell and release the beast, or just let the assholes take his niece. Option A sucks because Rambo now prefers to live a passive lifestyle, but option B is unacceptable, so option A it is. And even as Righteous Vengeance, which actually was kind of fun, I will admit again, the sequence doesn't feel like it's Rambo avenging his loved one because she was innocent and didn't deserve to die. It feels like Rambo was killing these men for himself because they took something from him, and they deserve it. I think there was actually a really nice way to subvert this. At the start of the film, Gabriella throws a house party with a bunch of her friends at Rambo's homestead because she and her friends all just graduated. And she plays a Kendrick Lamar song during her party, and during the big battle, Rambo plays a song by The Doors inside his farmhouse. Here's an idea: swap out the Doors song for the Kendrick song. Maybe even add a conversation between Rambo and Gabriella, where he asks why she likes that song. She tells him why, and then after she dies, Rambo plays that song to remember her. Maybe have Rambo blast a couple of the thugs, steal their walkie-talkie, and phone their boss saying, "Do you hear the song?" The boss says yes, or just doesn't have an answer because he doesn't understand the question. Rambo explains it was her favorite, and we have a close-up on the boss's face as he suddenly realizes, I am so fucked. And someone might see me make these points and say, well dude, just because the movie didn't go where you wanted it doesn't mean it's bad. And you're right. Not what I want does not necessarily equal bad. But if a movie is constantly making you think of how it could have been improved, maybe it's just not very good. An action movie is easy to fuck up. You need to balance a hero's motivation for violent behavior with likable traits. You need to make the villain seem strong enough to seem like a credible threat to the hero, but not so strong that it's unbelievable when the hero eventually does finally defeat them. And most importantly, you need to actually have good stunts and good choreography and good camera work for the actual action. I can understand why Rambo Last Blood doesn't work 100%, even if I'm still immensely frustrated by it. And I can't say that Stallone and company were trying to tell an important story about important subjects that they just didn't understand. They just wanted to tell a kick-ass action story, and they fucked it up. The same can absolutely not be said about Lena Waithe and her ridiculous script for Queen and Slim. Let me set something up for you here. Queen and Slim focuses on a black woman and a black man who are just on a Tinder date, but when they're driving home, a police officer stops them for reckless driving. Slim is asked to step out of the car for a breathalyzer test, who asks if they can hurry because it's cold outside. Naturally, the cop loses his shit, draws his weapon, and demands Slim get down on the ground. Queen announces that she is going to call the police officer's supervisor, and the cop freaks out and points his gun at Queen. So Slim tackles him, pulls his gun away, and then shoots him in self-defense. Queen, now being an accessory to murder, and Slim, now just plain being a murderer, decide to make a run for it. Later on, Queen and Slim meet a black kid named Junior who explains that he idolizes the two of them and wants to be like them, which isn't out of the ordinary in the movie. Characters have already told Queen and Slim that they admire them on more than one occasion. Anyway, the next day we cut to Junior at a big Black Lives Matter protest, while we also find Queen and Slim at a graveyard, with Queen telling Slim about her deceased mother. After talking, Queen and Slim decide to bone in Slim's car, while Junior yells at a black cop for being, I don't know, a fascist pig or something, and then shoots this cop in the fucking face. Completely premeditated. No self-defense justification for this one. These scenes are intercut with each other, you see. So, we see Slim sucking on Queen's titties, while Junior is screaming at a cop. We see Slim pounding into Queen's pussy, while Junior puts a bullet in the police officer's head. We see Queen and Slim orgasm, while Junior is killed by the other cops at the protest. Lena Waithe wrote this scene. Melina Natsoukas agreed to direct this, and neither of the other three producers of this movie, Lena and Melina both produced it also, neither of the other three said to them, "Are you ladies sure this is a good idea?" And on top of that, there's the god-awful dialogue, frequently confusing character decisions, and the fact that the main two characters didn't even like each other that much before all this bullshit happened. Yet apparently they think they're soulmates after knowing each other for maybe 3, maybe 4 days. Queen is very prickly. She's a very serious person, and she doesn't like it when people aren't acting serious. Well, Slim is an everyman who doesn't care about most trivial things, just wants to be a nice person and wants to be with his family. And he's pretty willing to expose himself just to get some chicken nugget. And to be clear, I don't think either of these are bad characters on their own. But this isn't a case of opposites attract, because even during the date, it's pretty clear Queen can't stand Slim, and Slim is lukewarm on Queen at best. And yet by the end of the movie, they're lovers who are 100% ride or die for each other. And then there's the aforementioned overwritten, trying way too hard to be clever, slightly Whedon-esque dialogue, with an especially annoying microcosm being how, when talking about their plan to travel from Florida to Cuba to evade the law, they keep asking how they're going to cross that large body of water. The Caribbean Sea. They mean the Caribbean Sea. Also, guys, there's this thing called boats. They're pretty good at crossing water, you know. And you can usually find them a lot near coastal regions like Florida. Did you think about that? Yeah, Queen and Slim is generally not a movie that's as smart as it thinks it is. Which is a shame, because Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith both gave it their all here, and the cinematographer really did make this movie look gorgeous. So, those were the only 2 movies I saw this year that I just couldn't fucking stand. It felt good getting that off my chest. So, my next video is actually going to be a top 15 favorites from 2019, followed by more Star Wars videos, followed by that Planet of the Apes video I promised back in 2017, followed by that Krypton video I promised before 2019 ended, as well as videos discussing the 2 Full Metal Alchemist animes, and a video discussing the top 10 theatrically released superhero comic movies of the 2010s. In the meantime, links to all my videos from the past 3 years will be down below. Feel free to check them all out. Happy belated New Year, everyone. Have a great day. Woodstock out.